In this video, we're going to be doing some procedural texturing. So let's go. So procedural texturing is kind of different from normal image textures, because image textures, you're just using an already existing texture and putting it on our object. But the procedural textures are not images, but it's like generated by the computer by itself, and you can like adjust the scale, randomize, or maybe adjust the details, but you can still use it to do some PBR stuff. So yeah, so hopefully we can all get into procedural texturing, and we'll do a little bit of cool textures later. So let's go. Okay, so real quick, the materials are the things that we see on our object. It's the color or whatever is on our object, and the textures are the things that are inside the material, because we can have two textures put together as one to make one material. Without further ado, let's begin. So first I'm just gonna open a new file. File new and general. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna delete everything right now. We're not gonna use any of that in this video. And then we're going to add UV sphere, and then we're going to move it up on the Z. Move it up by 1, and then we're gonna move it on the Y by like 2. And then Shift D, move it on the Y by -2. And there we go, we have 2, and duplicate another one, -2. So we have 3 balls right there. And we're gonna do a thing called shade smooth. It basically smooth our object. So shade smooth, and there we go. So let's try on our first ball first. So go here, and we're just gonna add a new material and name it like texture 1, because we're using one texture right now, but it's still a material, don't get me wrong. Okay, so now go to shading and make sure this is selected, and you see there's a principled BSDF. It's basically the same thing here, and the material output is where you plug everything together and where you put the output. So now Shift A, we're going to go to textures, and there are a lot of textures that you can try out. Like most of them are like procedural textures, except for like environment textures and image textures. Those are, you need to load an image from the internet or something, or a PDF or PNG JPEG file that you saved. But most of them should have like, let's say wave texture. Okay, Shift A, go to textures, and we're gonna add a wave texture. And now nothing happened yet, because this texture needs to be plugged in with the base color. The base color is basically the base color, the base of the color. So we're gonna plug this color of the wave texture into the base color, and there we go. The wave texture becomes the base color. Okay, so now this is very cool. For now, you can adjust the scale to make it have a lot of thing like a ripple like this, and it's a procedural texture, so you can actually adjust a lot of things, like its direction. Just a second, it's loading. Its direction, or you can adjust the distortion. So it's gonna distort our wave into like a weird texture-y thing right there. Or you can like adjust the detail roughness like that. Phase is like the seed. If you've done graph editing, then maybe you know phase, like that. So yeah, there we go. That's our first texture. And one more thing you can do is the FAC and the color is literally the same thing. So on the right, it's the output, and on the left, it's the input. So the output, the FAC, is the same thing as the color, but it's black and white, as it says factor. So let's say like the roughness. Now the roughness is like adjusting like one by one the whole thing. But if you like plug in the factor onto the, it's taking the black part. Is taking the black part. Is taking the black part and making it shiny, but the white part is just not ready. Like it's not making it shiny. It's just lowering the roughness. Black means no roughness, and white means has some roughness, and gray is like in between. And you can like plug it in like other stuff like specular or metallic. It all works. Most of them they read black and white information, like as they say right here. So like it's gray right here, gray, and gray here. You plug it in. It's like it says it receives black and white information. Gray is black and white. Like yellow means it receives color information, and purple means it receives like a purple bluish. It's called a normal map. It's kind of like purple, blue, pink, red kind of thing. I'll show you a picture right here. Yeah. So let's try another texture. So let's say we add a new texture. Let's call this texture 2. Okay. And now let's try a new texture. Let's say Musgrave texture. Now sometimes it doesn't have a yellow information. That means it's the same thing with the black and white. Now the black and white can plug into yellow. It's not really that much big of a deal, but other things are. So now let's say you plug it in like this, and now one thing you can do really cool is if you want the black part to be like green and the white part to be like, I don't know, red, you can use a color ramp. Shift A, search color ramp, and then just put it in between right here, and then now you can click on the black part. The black part is like the gradient, and like select the black part, and you can just adjust the color to like green, the black part green, and this part like red-ish, and then you can adjust the amount like this. Very cool. So now like let's say this project that my students were doing, you can use Musgrave texture or something and just put it like one part that is green and one part is dark green. You can do something like this. So you can use a color ramp to separate it. Now it's like the color itself, it's mixing this too, but you have this Musgrave texture in the factor. So it says the black part separate the green onto it, and the white part separate the yellow part onto it. It's like using, it's like wrapping this around it, and then we have this telling it the green part to put, the black part to put green, the white part to put pink. So now the last one, let's try this one. New texture, and let's say Shift A. We're gonna add let's add a noise texture. So we're gonna just put in the noise texture, and now you see you can adjust the scale, the roughness, or the detail. Okay, or you can even adjust the distortion. And now we're gonna plug the factor into the roughness like that. And now you can do one thing is making it bumpy. So we're gonna add a new node. Shift A, search, bump, and just put it in here, and just plug the factor into the height, and the normal into the normal, like that. And then it's kind of bumpy. Now, yes, this is kind of like what we did in PBR, but that was, we were using already made texture. It's a image texture, but this is like a procedural texture. So if you do know how to do like PBR stuff, like setting up a PBR material, you can try doing it here, like the displacement and stuff. But that should be it. I'm just trying to say that Procedural textures are cool because you can adjust the scale and the distortion. Like, oh, that looked like a moon. Yeah. So yeah, that should be it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow.